Well, thank you for coming. My name is Tika Caldwell. I really appreciate you all taking the time today to listen and connect and maybe learn something. This ceramic charger, made by our company Living Design Consultants, is embedded with a full and balanced spectrum of all magnetic frequencies common to living systems. These are the same magnetic frequencies that lie within the human heart, but additionally are the centerpiece of life force in all living systems. So the cool thing about what we were able to do is we were able to stabilize these frequencies. So forever, even if this got smashed into 100 pieces, all the little pieces would still be little emitters of magnetic frequencies that are common to living systems. And the reason why it's important to me, and it might be important to you if you're interested in learning more about amplifying harmony in your world, is because the technology that we use mostly every day has the ability to do work, but it's void of these magnetic frequencies that are found in our heart or that are found in the center of a redwood tree or a bee. And the technologies that we're utilizing give us many, many benefits for cellular communication across the globe. Just like many of you may be listening to me now, you could be in Europe or someplace else. We're in Asheville, North Carolina. But the technology that we're using is void of these frequencies of living systems. And science has proven it, and people who are sensitive sometimes can feel it, that it's very stressful. And there's a lot of information that we can learn about, but the cool thing is we have a really easy way to work with nature, to amplify harmony, to reduce stress, and help increase life force. And these are simply a set of tools that were originally designed for the Harmonizing World Water Project after the BP oil spill. And they really were an outgrowth of a need for me to figure out how to support life in the Gulf when the funding was running out and the need was great. The BP oil spill was a traumatic event in my life because I was born and raised in New Orleans, and actually my uncle invented the shrimp peeling machine, and so we grew up close to the shore. You know, the life in the Gulf was part of my family culture. And as a child, my greatest joys were really at the beach and connecting with nature. So my greatest fear was coming true at the time. And I had had a lot of training, background in environmental studies and a science called microvibrational radiesthesia and biogeometry, which is, in simple terms, the study of microvibrations or radiation and how to know when they're life-supporting and life-depleting. And I had done work in New Orleans with a philanthropist in town after Katrina. And we had planted things around power lines and cell phone towers. Actually, it was a week before the Saints won the Super Bowl, coincidentally. And coincidentally, after that, the morale of the city went up. And some people were intrigued with the work that I was doing. And I didn't have my own tools at the time. But when the oil spill happened, my friend called me and said, "Tika, what are you going to do about the Gulf?" And I thought, what are you, crazy? What do you think? And long story short, I ended up working with an electrical engineer who was also doing work in the Gulf, and I learned that some of the tools that I was innovative and began to put together, in fact, did make a difference. But what happened was while the BP oil spill was going on, Fukushima hit. And I was miraculously given $100,000 over a period of time by a woman in Asheville, and I was working with a nonprofit in New Orleans who was overseeing the work, the integrity and the validation of the work, and the necessity was the mother of invention again, because we were pretty much running out of money and now we had another environmental crisis. And as the universe would have it, in my background and training, we had learned how to amplify these magnetic, harmonic frequencies of nature to shift radiation of all different types, including nuclear radiation, so that nature could more easily balance it. And from that time, 2011 and 2012, I actually worked with a group of women all over the world to empower them. And at the time, we called them living prayer packets. And it was really a humanitarian outreach to help Gaia, our mother. It was not a scientific experiment. And what I know is there's a tremendous amount of work that still needs to be done. And coincidentally, in 2012, I became aware of some other research of someone who had passed, and I had had a clay company previously, and I learned of research of how to embed my work or the principles of my work that I had been using into clay. And I'd had a clay company with my first husband, coincidentally, and all of a sudden, all of my interest from the time when I was 17, where I did National Outdoor Leadership School, NOLS courses, and maybe you all have had an experience at an early age where you either connected with nature or had a very formative experience. Very early on in my life, I had a deep and profound connection with nature and was wanting to learn how to preserve the environment already at 17. So my life work began to come full circle in 2012. And my love of beauty and art and ceramics and my love of nature and what I had learned, the science of creating balance and harmony, began to come together, and I started being innovative. In truth, I didn't invent anything new. I simply took principles that I have been taught and that are universal principles and applied them in a unique way into ceramic, and we've also applied them into paper in the form of cards and into stickers, into form of really practical little decals that we can place on things. But at the end of the day, I took probably 40 years of training and a lot of research and trial and error, and learned how to put it into an object that could empower you to take this into your world or to your home, into your environment. They don't all have to be this big, really, but in a very short period of time, in an urban environment, make a significant difference to amplify the harmony in your world, to empower your mitochondria and your head and your heart to connect, and your nervous system to ground, and also to add harmony into your home. Because really, in my training, I learned that the buildings where we live and work and play, they are our second skin. And we can spend a lot of time changing our mind, learning how to connect with our heart, grounding and doing yoga and all kinds of things to support our health and take vitamins. But when we are sleeping in an environment that is filled with electromagnetic frequencies that are not in balance with nature, it's very stressful for our body. And when we amplify the harmony in a building, it has a ripple effect into the neighborhood. In 2011, when Fukushima happened, a good friend of mine at the time gave me a book, and it was called Our Love is Our Power. And it was written by Sharon McErlane, and Sharon, in the book, shared her story of her personal experience with non-physical grandmothers who were communicating with her on the beach in California and began to inspire and empower her. And in turn, Sharon developed an organization called the Grandmothers that is all over the world. I happened to be introduced to one of the women in Asheville who was part of this group, who gave me the book. I was very exhausted after doing the work in the Gulf, and I really crashed, actually, afterwards, and I forgot she gave me the book. And then one day, I was flat. I was flatlined. I was in bed for days, okay? I was exhausted. I was on my way to the bathroom, and I saw the book. And I picked it up, and I read the book in a day, and it was like Popeye eating spinach. Seriously. And a feeling came over me, like a miracle had just happened, and my prayer was, oh my goodness, what if I could connect with this woman, and what if we could connect with other women all over the world so that we could duplicate the work easily that I was doing in the Gulf? Because truly it isn't about me, it's truly about empowering the we to be able to make a difference quickly. So the way it unfolded was I ended up going to, I think it was Laguna Beach, to go communicate and share my story with what I had been working on in the background where I had come from. And before you know it, it was in 2011 and 2012, we had what I was calling at the time these prayer packets. And women in the UK, in Australia, Germany, Canada, all over were putting these prayer packets, and in Ireland, I would get these phone calls from people out of the blue when I was thinking I had absolutely lost it and was crazy, and somebody would tell me of some miracle that had just happened, or some feeling that they had that was a blessing, or how whales showed up, or dolphins showed up, or people out of the blue showed up to go help them bring it in the water. And that interaction and this relationship with those women was one of the most powerful experiences of my life. And what it did was it empowered me to continue. When I was working with the grandmothers, one of the reasons that was so powerful that I could connect with them at that time is they were already working with the net of golden light that emanates from the heart of all living systems, that is in the unified field, that certainly comes from within us, but is also emanated from a tree. It is also emanated from flowers and birds and bees and animals and even crystals, the mineral kingdom, even the fairies, okay? We have visible and non-visible life on our planet, okay? And quantum physics is actually teaching us about this unified field of which we are part, okay? And it is these magnetic frequencies in our human heart that also reside in the center of every living system. And it is the unified frequency field that connects all of life. The heart has a magnetic field, and the heart holds more information than the brain. The heart casts an energy field with this information in an organized manner 2.5 times more than the information that comes from the head. And the energy that comes from our heart, it is truly magnetic and it is truly organizing. And so when we learn, as we're all learning, because our culture hasn't really taught us how to use our brain and our mind as a tool, but to live through the heart, we literally can change the world. Because there is a unification in an understanding now with quantum physics that we are learning to tap into the center of our being and actually dream a new dream. When I was young, my favorite thing to think about was the connection of all things. And then I remember swimming in the river as a young child, and I could remember going underneath the water. Maybe you all had this experience too, I don't know. But when I would go underwater, I could hear the motor of a boat far, far away. But when I'd pop my head above the water, I couldn't hear the boat coming. And so as a young child, I began to develop a curiosity of how sound would travel in the water different than how it would travel in the air. And it was at this time in the summers that we would swim in the rivers every day. And now when I go back to the same river where I grew up, people can't swim there. And I feel sad. And maybe you all know of places that you used to frequent as a child, maybe where there were more trees, maybe where the water was cleaner. And so it's really my motivation to empower you all, if it's something that's interesting to you, to be able to amplify this connection of all living systems, whether it's to place it in rivers or in your home or on your person, to access this unified field. At this time, most of us are aware that our world is at a tipping point or a turning point. Politically, environmentally, in many, many ways, and with consciousness. And the most important thing that, for me, that I've learned, that I would love to share, is that it's the consciousness that is the most important thing because of this unified field of the heart. So what we think and feel and what we dream matters in every moment. And I've learned to relearn how to think and feel because I've learned more about consciousness. And what I've understood is when we are very present in the present moment, and when we drop into our heart and we dream the dream of what we prefer, and we feel it as if it's already happening now, we can send this grid of golden light or this love or these thought forms out into the world. And because the heart is 2.5 more times powerful in communicating information and rearranging particles in the world than our brain. Each of you can dream your dream and imagine how you can make a difference in the world, in your own world. These tools are simply to support you being the best of who you are, and can assist you to support nature in a very efficient way. Very soon, probably by January, we are going to be kicking off the Harmonizing World Water Project again. This is a project that started in 2009 after Katrina, again was in 2010 after the BP oil spill, was very active in 2011 and 2012 after Fukushima, and as recently as 2017 when we had the fires in Asheville, we had quite a few people putting harmonizers or chargers in the rivers and in the forests around our area. And one of the guys who was helping us do the work, it was not my observation, but it was his observation that he noticed that right after that the fire stopped. Coincidence? We don't know, but it was our gift to Gaia. It's just our way of communicating. Some people, maybe you guys know of this thing, Ho'oponopono. I'm sorry, I love you, forgive me, thank you. And it's a Hawaiian prayer, and it involves consciousness. And the meaning of the communication, in very simple terms from my understanding, is just because I am aware of what is happening in my reality, I have a relationship with it. And just because I am consciousness and I am in relationship, as someone with free will, not to take blame, but I can say, I'm sorry that this is occurring. I love you, to whomever or whatever, whether it is the earth or each other. Forgive me. And in my training, I've learned to think of forgiveness as forgiving blessing where more blessing is needed. Not so much to condone or to ignore or forget what may have happened. And so the spirit of this work is really in the spirit of Ho'oponopono. It's a way to gift Gaia, or to gift ourselves, or to gift each other, to amplify harmony. So I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to tap in and become attuned to yet another way to resonate with each other and our dear Mother Earth and our technology. And to experience gratitude, I very much appreciate the time that you've taken, and I appreciate the technology that we are sharing that is allowing us to connect through space and time. And I really would like to offer a blessing. Namaste. A blessing. Thank you.